All right, BIC episode number 57. On this one, we've got another week of NFL playoffs in the books, heading into the penultimate week of the season before the big game at the end of the season. Don't sue us, NFL. You know, the big game at the end of the season, that last one.
Yeah, that we can't talk about.
The finale.
Yeah, with all the really expensive commercials. So we've got a couple of channel updates we'll do. We'll talk a little bit about what happened this past week. Wide right again. Most unfortunate for, a certain fan base. Some disappointing, some interesting, intriguing matchups, and some kind of history made. So we'll talk about more of that and more on this episode of the BSC podcast. All right, then. So first off, we'll touch on a couple of quick things off the top for the channel. Thank you to everybody who decided to participate and hang out during the watch-alongs. It's been kind of fun to do them this last little while. I think I have set it in my mind that I'm going to do the NFC Championship since that was the one that interests me more. So we'll definitely see about that. So that should be a lot of fun. I'll work out the details and the plans and everything, and we should be able to swing that and manage it. And then in addition to it, like I said, we had a couple of nice watch-alongs. I had a lot of fun on the last one. The last watch-along went longer than the Friday live stream. That's how you know it's working well. And we did have the first appearance of Ed Westergriff on the channel. So that was an extra special one and a special treat. Andy, She Blind with Refractors also joined us in the post-game show. So we did the full game, doing a watch-along, and then had ourselves a lovely post-game show, and Carlos, shocked some people, horrified some people that he was able to get through his 3 beers, and then he switched to whiskey and continued to drink for the remainder of the 5.5 hours. It was pretty excellent. I enjoyed myself. I regret nothing. But for the rest of this stuff on this NFC Championship, though, a little more low-key. I think I'm going to enjoy it in the context of what it is. But we'll talk about a couple of the games that did happen. Some interesting happenings, some unfortunate happenings, because one of the things we talked about is going to be a little bit of I feel like now we're entering into that curse territory a little bit. I want to start off. Let me talk about the KC Buffalo game, because that was an excellent game. It was a really good game. These teams seem to be really, when they meet in the playoffs, because I saw a graphic that talked about the last 3 games. Obviously, Kansas City has won all of them. So I think at this point, Buffalo has developed a complex. And kind of leading into the game, we did mention that I felt like this KC team was vulnerable, which I still believe they were. And I felt like this Buffalo team had its best opportunity. This was going to be your chance to get over the hump. If you were going to get over the hump, beat this team, this is your opportunity. And they were at least in position, if nothing else, to potentially tie the game. Now, to be fair, thank you. There was an opportunity, of course. There was enough time left on the clock. So, I'm not going to do the whole play-by-play. But towards the end, with under 2 minutes left, there was a field goal that they could have kicked to tie the game. So it ended up being 27-24. But they had an opportunity to kick the game-tying field goal. But Mahomes would have been left with plenty of time to be able to potentially go down the field. And that was always in play. That, of course, could have happened. Kansas City was moving the ball very well by that point. So it's not a given that making that field goal would have prevented Buffalo from losing anyway. But regardless, I think just the fact that they missed the field goal, the fact they missed it wide right, and I went back and listened to play-by-play commentary, and of course, as they're doing the play call, I think it's Jim Nantz and Tony Romo. I think that team was Jim Nantz and Romo. So Jim Nantz calls it, and he goes, but then there's like a dramatic pause. Wide right. And all of a sudden, I'm like, I can imagine. So, Eric, you talked about, the Dallas Cowboy fan. I can imagine there's a bunch of people in Western New York that are like throwing their TVs out the window. How dare you invoke it?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, poor Scott Norwood. I mean, he's their Bill Buckner.
The thing is, they actually gave, like, to the credit of the Buffalo fan. This is the reason why. So, Brandon, as well as everyone else, and Eric as well, I love me some Schadenfreude. I do enjoy the suffering of others. It's kind of a thing that I do. But I have never taken pleasure in the defeat of the Buffalo Bills, because at this point, it's been so many things. Like, it's not sporting anymore. It's like, look, the Buffalo Bills situation is like, no, you have earned my pity. Like, at this stage, it's like, no, I wish for some nice things to happen to you just this once. Just this once. One nice thing is not too much to ask. I don't have any negative ill will towards. I've been to many Bills games. They're very nice people when they're not jumping through tables. For the most part, they're very nice people. I've hung out at the tailgate. They're swell. Nothing wrong with that. And they're supportive of their team. And to their credit, when that happened with Scott Norwood, they did not try to run him out of town. They did not try to, do burning effigies. They actually embraced the guy and gave him a break, to their credit, because it was devastating. Now, I think in the back of their mind, they thought, oh, you know what? This team's so good.
Right.
We're going to get another shot. And they technically did. They got 3 more shots, and it just never worked out. It just never worked. So it was like, and I still believe, like, this is truly what I believe. That was like a fork in the road moment. I think if he had made that field goal and they win that Super Bowl, I don't think they make it to 4 straight Super Bowls. I don't think that ever happens again.
No.
But I am convinced that if they had won that game, because that was a game-winning field goal situation, if he had made that, that would have been a game winner. If they had beaten the Giants in that Super Bowl, first, Bill Belichick doesn't win that Super Bowl ring as an assistant, and the reign of terror maybe is averted. There's another alternate reality where that happens. But the other piece, I believe they would have won 1 more Super Bowl. I think it would have been a situation where maybe they win 2. Jim Kelly goes to the Hall of Fame as a 2-time Super Bowl winning quarterback. Puts himself among the pantheon of greats, because Jim Kelly was great. But in the back of everybody's mind, it's like, well, he never won a Super Bowl. He went to 4. You have to be pretty darn good to get to 4 straight Super Bowls. That's not a thing to do. Yeah, that means you have to put together 4 tremendous teams, and they had great comebacks in the play. So it's not like they were playoff chokers.
And
they were winning playoff games.
I mean, the Patriots sucked back then. So we as New England fans would kind of lean into other franchises as a backdoor fan, and we're definitely keeping an eye on Buffalo, or around here back then. And I can still name many of the Buffalo Bills, back in that day. Steve Christie, Norwood, obviously, Kelly, Andre Reed, Thurman Thomas,
yeah.
Fred Smerlis, and I could probably rack my brain and come up with
Bruce
some more.
Smith, Cornelius Bennett, James Lofton.
Right.
They had a huge team. Yeah,
they were very good. They were excellent teams. Not
Bruce
1 or 2, but excellent.
Bruce Smith. How do I not remember Bruce Smith?
I was wondering. Cornelius Bennett.
Okay. So, I mean,
but to be clear, Bruce Smith did make it to the Super Bowl, unlike Brock Purdy. Bruce Smith was in fact in the Super Bowl. Bruce Smith got to the Super Bowl so far more times than Brock Purdy.
No,
these are facts.
No, you're mistaken. And I know that we're 5% more mature here, but I think it's important that
I was speaking facts, Brandon. I was speaking facts.
Important, the fact that you want to downplay, 12-time Super Bowl champ, and 5-time MVP, and
what about the other 7 times? Good Lord.
He's the only person that's been inducted into the Hall of Fame 15 times, and he's still in his playing career. So I would really wish he'd back off the Brock Purdy thing. Give this guy,
Brandon, you know what the situation calls for, don't you?
Goat of goats.
That is the official international signal of pumping. Anyway, moving on. So yes, Bruce Smith has been to the Super Bowl. These are facts. But anyway, so the point that I was making about this game is that this franchise has suffered quite a bit. Yeah. And they had tremendous opportunities, and they had that entire crazy run. The Music City Miracle, that was another one. Like, it's not like they've had 1 or 2 gut punch losses in these situations, but this recent run with Josh Allen and this team, where they just can't get over the hump and beat Kansas City. The Kansas City is the boogeyman. they keep knocking them off, and they can't. This was, I think, their best opportunity. And truthfully, I'm convinced. I don't think losing this one again in this way, I'm not convinced Buffalo ever beats Kansas City now. If they wind up against each other in any way, shape, or form, everybody's going to look at Kansas City and just assume that's it. And I'm not sure Buffalo psychologically recovers from it, because at this point they see ghosts whenever there's the high leverage moment, because it's just they can't quite figure it out.
I think they, need to get just one more really strong top 10 wide receiver, and I think they'd be all set. I mean, I think he was having a hard time finding, someone to throw to.
Well, who was it,
So
Brandon? That Josh Allen tried. I don't know why they made that play call, but Josh Allen tried one monster throw where he had to be like 50 yards in the air, and
Yeah.
it hit him. Like I don't know I don't remember who the receiver was, but like it hit him, so he had a chance to catch it.
well, I think I may be wrong. I know he was
It was
out.
Diggs. I think it was Diggs. I think it was
Yeah, we
Diggs.
said
Yeah,
number one.
Stefan's his number one, but I
Yeah.
think Gabe Davis was hurt. I don't think he played. And I'll say I had Josh Allen on my fantasy team this season, and he is a very unpredictable quarterback because he's very frustrating on your fantasy team because I also had Gabe Davis. And I actually mentioned this in the Discord several weeks ago because it seemed like Allen locks into a particular player each game. And I think defenses and coordinators, if they figure out early which receiver he's locking in on, he just stays with them. I looked at the game and you mentioned Diggs. I know at one time he had targeted him 8 times and there was only 3 receptions. So he was feeding Diggs the ball. They just weren't connecting. But there would be games where his number two, Gabe Davis, had like 0 targets. And it's like, how are you not targeting your number two wide receiver? So it's like he zones in. But then the next game, Davis might have 12 catches for 100 some yards and a touchdown or more. So it was like, I don't know if it's him, what the defenses are given, the way he's reading the defenses, the game planning, and could even be the offensive coordinator. But it felt like all season he would zone in on one guy each game. So I don't know if that's what was happening yesterday or what, but I don't know. It was just something I noticed with Allen. So
Sure.
Yeah.
So what I'll say is this about the Buffalo and Kansas City game. Like I said, the game itself was tremendous. As a viewer, it was a great game to watch. Like there was a lot of really good in it. These teams are incredibly entertaining to watch when they get together in this scenario. And we'll have to see. I don't know. Buffalo's going to have to find something. They got to get a voodoo shaman, figure out whatever it is that's going on over there. That something always seems to go wrong for them at the most inopportune moment. It always seems to be something.
Would you say, and I'm not putting either player on this level, but rewind back to like the early years of 2000, would you put this competitive nature between not necessarily the two teams, but Mahomes and Allen as a similar scenario of Manning and Brady, where Manning, such a hell of a team, successful all along, but could never defeat Brady, and then once he finally did, he got a Super Bowl. Could you look at Allen as maybe the Manning and I don't even want to say Mahomes is Brady, but in comparison's sake?
Well, right now, Mahomes. So to answer your question, Mahomes is actually getting some Brady comparisons because of the first 6 or 7 seasons of their careers. So they've started doing the comparables of them. 6 seasons that he's been a full-time starter, 6 AFC Championship appearances. That's tremendous. Like that's really good. That's strong. Right now, the only guy who has more appearances in the conference championship in a row is the aforementioned Thomas Edward Patrick Beavis Butthead Brady. Facts. So right now, he's chasing. Right now, the only other person who has been able to get to the conference championship with that level of regularity. So I think it was 2011 to 2018. I think was the run where the Patriots got to the AFC Championship game, which is tremendous. But 6 in a row, that's nothing to sneeze at. That's nothing to be insulted about. And 3 Super Bowl appearances in that run, 2 Super Bowl wins in that run, and right now they're still in the tournament with another opportunity to potentially get to another Super Bowl and take another crack at winning a third. So who knows? So right now he's building a very strong resume for considering his age and considering what he's already accomplished, building an incredibly strong resume. So to answer the rest of your question, though, I think the only part where the comp falls apart a little bit is Josh Allen's style as a player, the fact that he's a physical runner as part of his game, I don't think will age as well as Peyton Manning's skill set. Peyton Manning's skill set as a quarterback, I think, allowed him to be able to. Now, towards the end of his career, obviously that last Super Bowl win in Denver, he was noodle armed at that point. He was broken.
I wasn't meaning compare, Mahomes as Brady and comparing Allen as Manning. I was using the scenario of where Manning and Brady had them duels
Right.
each year, and it was like
Yeah.
Manning couldn't pass Brady
Yeah.
to get over the hump to get to the Super Bowl, and it almost feels like that's where Josh Allen's at right now in his career. He can't pass Mahomes, but if he could, maybe he could get that opportunity for the ring. It's like
Yeah.
Mahomes is kind of Josh Allen's kryptonite, like Brady was Peyton Manning's kryptonite.
I get the comp. I don't disagree with the concept. The only reason I'm mentioning the difference with the Peyton Manning though is that I just don't think Josh Allen will be able to play long enough to get his second half of the arc. It's like, so if you want to do the comparison, I feel like maybe Josh Allen's only getting the first act in the 3-act play. The problem is he's doing where the other guy finds ways to beat you and but I could see a scenario where Josh Allen finally starts getting run down, and he never gets that opportunity, whereas Peyton Manning was able to stick at it long enough where he was eventually able to get his opportunity to finally win that game because he had a full career. With Josh Allen, we don't know. And I'm not wishing, and again, I go back to what I said earlier, I'm not wishing anything bad on him, but it's the style of play he's playing, or it concerns me that
Right.
maybe when he finally gets to a point where he could figure it out, they figure out something, or maybe the team is built like just right. He may not be physically able to capitalize and take advantage of it by that point. That's the only concern I have. So right
The
now, I think we
AFC
maybe only
has
get in the first part.
the AFC has a load of talented quarterbacks too.
Yep.
Man, the NFL in general, but the AFC is like loaded.
Yeah.
So
There's another point to that I want to touch on at the end, but that's the reason why I'm invoking that now. So I think your comp is a very good one, but I feel like we're only going to get the first half of that. The part where the one guy is dominating the other one is, this the kryptonite. I just don't know if he'll be able to stay in the game, so to speak, long enough to ever have the chance to maybe
to win the
finally break
title,
through.
yeah.
To maybe break through. Again, I wish him nothing but the best. No ill will towards Buffalo. We still like you and appreciate you, but it's a tough scene. But like I said, Jim Nantz invoking the wide right, even though it's technically accurate, it's like, dude, give him a break. Give him a break.
And I just want to say about that, this was not a Norwood situation. This was not
No, it
to
wasn't.
win a game, win the Super Bowl. This was to tie a game
Yeah.
in the division playoffs. A game that should have, ended at least 3 plays before. If it wasn't for several mistakes made by this kid's teammates, he wouldn't have even been put in that position. It isn't like they drove down the field and said, okay, we're going to kick it because time's running out and we're going to, tie this game up. It was 4th down because the previous 3 downs sucked. Players did not step up and do what they needed to do in those 3 downs and left this rookie kicker out there in the freezing cold, to do this. So I know a lot of people, it's easy for them to, quickly blame this kid and, he sucks and, they should get rid of him and all that. But watch the last, handful of plays by Buffalo and it's a shit show.
Oh, Eric, I'm gonna get to blaming the kicker soon. Not in this game. I've got a kicker that I have a bone to pick with. I'm getting to
There was
that.
another game that was lost.
Yeah, I'll get to that.
3.
I'll get to that about the blaming the kicker. We're gonna come back to that thought. We're gonna come back to it.
But the last handful of plays by Buffalo were just so bad.
I have a question though. So real quick, I want to ask one more question, and then we'll move on to the second game here. But one thought that I had is that I'm wondering if maybe Buffalo made a mistake in trying to really fixate, because one thing that I felt like they were doing, if you remember that last drive before the kick, Buffalo was basically, I want to say they had like 8 minutes left on the clock when that drive started. So they were like trying to do this big sustained drive.
Yeah.
And they were almost there. It's almost like they were trying to run out the whole clock. Like they wanted to get to a point where even if they had to kick a field goal, it was like, yeah, okay, I want to do it, but I want to leave Mahomes like 6 seconds. I want to make sure like he's got no time to even attempt to, they didn't want to score too fast and give him too much time to storm Dak.
Management. They were doing a great job with it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm wondering if like the fact that they were not trying to go for the kill shot, they just didn't want to leave too much time. They're like sitting there like, okay, but if we get the touchdown, I want to do it with like under a minute. So they're like trying to basically slowly crawl up the field. It's instead of like taking what's there. That's
But
what I wonder if that was a
also,
little bit of a
they
thing.
could not run even a yard. I mean, their running backs would just hit a wall, and they could not gain a simple yard running the ball. Their offensive linemen, on the backside of, watching Allen's backside when he throws, he just gets pushed back and he's just backpedaling, and the guy is just shoving him into Allen, and he steps on Allen's foot while he tries to make that throw straight down the field into the end zone, and he comes up short with that wide open receiver in the end zone because the lineman, I mean, I could have done the same thing. I don't know how much he gets paid per play. I could have been in that situation and done the same thing.
With your back and hip, you probably would have just been laying on the ground, though.
Yeah, that still, at the point was, you might as well. Nothing stopped this. I mean, it was as if no one was there. You have
If we coat him in plaster of Paris, he wouldn't necessarily move. He would just be stationary. That might work.
there you go.
We could probably do that.
You had Diggs wide open in the short yardage. They wanted to go long. He was wide open. There was no one near him. There was just so much that went wrong in those last few drives, and to put it all on this rookie kicker it's not the right thing to do.
From the reports I heard after the game, it was just there was too much air in the footballs. That's all it was.
Well, they should come to New England. We have less.
Yeah, she's saying deflation was the key. A little deflation might have helped.
They were a little over, maybe a pound or so. Simple reports, no, just allegedly hashtag.
Yeah,
we do love the allegedly.
Did you guys hear, on a side note, how there was our kicker and the opposing kicker of some team the Patriots are playing were shanking kicks during the game, and they found out that the balls were deflated this season. Now, the Patriots had nothing to do with it. The rules have all been changed. The officials, they didn't do their jobs. So the kickers were kicking deflated footballs and missing. And they found out during either halftime or sometime during the game that the balls were under-deflated. Now, again, neither team had access to these. This was 100. The rules have changed. This was all the NFL, their officials, their team, the whole thing. And they had deflated balls on the Patriots field again this season.
Wow.
Must be something with the air temperature.
It could be. Yeah. It sounds like atmospheric interference to me. A lot of atmospheric interference.
It was crazy.
So in that vein, overall, bottom line, condolences to Buffalo. Unfortunately, another playoff game against Kansas City that results in pain, in great, great pain. Gross. Now, speaking of pain, AMGcollectibles.ca. Carlos, how did you arrive at that segue? My friends, there's a reason why I arrived at that segue. Because you see, on the AMG Collectibles YouTube channel and AMGcollectibles.ca, you can see a lot of different cards and a lot of different things, including the break of the cup. And one thing that I'll be following up on is we're going to find out, now that the auctions are fully completed on the stuff related to the cup, you can find out what a full case of the cup, retail value over $7,000, would actually yield on the other side of it, aka pain. You see, that segue made total sense.
Oh God, yeah,
total sense. But
when will that be? When will that be done? Tomorrow?
Work in progress. No. I don't think we're gonna have it. I don't think we're gonna have it for the podcast. We've got a couple of things planned for the podcast, but and there's a lot of what came in the shop this week. There's actually some really nice. There's actually a nice variety of stuff, by the way. I can tell you, I've got the images and everything. Yeah. A surprising great variety of items that have come in the shop, and I can also say that there's an upcoming trade night, which will be discussed a little bit more length, and the monthly card show will be happening at a new location, which is important. It's important to make a note of that, and that'll be something that we'll discuss. Because obviously that we weren't sure what the situation was going to be with the monthly card show, but there has been a new location. It's been on the social medias a little bit. So check out amgcollectibles.ca, follow the social medias.
Using the Bills field?
That maybe they got the space. Now they're, it might be a little chilly, wear layers. But we thank AMG for supporting the channel and this podcast. We need to get our segue in so that we can incorporate him.
Yeah, I look forward to not only seeing tomorrow's show, but the show in which all the cup is discussed and what money came back from it.
I think it would be quite illuminating and educational.
I am
The
looking
cup
forward to that.
underfloweth.
Mm. Look at you. I see what you did there. Well played. All
I'm
right. So speaking of pain, also, let's talk about the Detroit Lions, who for once are not experiencing pain. It's actually the opposite for them. Traditionally, it is pain. That is kind of their brand, pain. However, this Detroit Lions team is, rewriting their own narrative. First time in over 30 years that they were in that position, and they won. And now the Detroit Lions had what I think was a pretty comfortable victory once they kind of asserted themselves in this game. It was kind of Tampa Bay was able to hang around a little bit, but then Detroit steadily took control until they eventually asserted control. By the end, it was Detroit was in control. They pretty much had it in hand. And then the Detroit faithful, like Eric has mentioned previously, the tears, they flowed, they flowed, the joy, the rapture, and no reports yet, but the ruins may have been burned in happiness. The rioting was joyful, cheerful. It was wonderful, as opposed to rioting of sadness. Different kind of context.
Like Vancouver.
Oh, listen, Vancouver always riots joyously, always at all times.
Yeah,
2011.
I messaged my buddy JJ because he is a Michigan native, a Lions fan, a Michigan Wolverine fan, and I asked him, I said, how is the state handling itself? You guys have an NCAA football title, and now you're heading to the NFC Championship game. And he said, chaos has essentially ensued. So the state of Michigan does not know how to handle themselves right now when it comes to the sport of football.
So what you're saying effectively is it's like millions of people in the state of Michigan are literally all at once together and united saying, I don't know what to do with my hands, Eric. I don't know.
It's pretty much, man. I mean,
I think we should get Detroit native and Michigander Billy Cilio on Friday.
Michigander, is that the official term?
That's what I'm going to say. I think it is. But not 100% sure, but I think it is.
Are you sure about it as the Brock Purdy Super Bowl record?
Brock
on a scale of certainty, how certain are we?
Brock Purdy is a 37-time Super Bowl winner. I don't know why you continue to pick on him and call him out, but he is the GOAT of all GOATs.
I was far more impressed when he body slammed Andre the Giant in front of 14 million people at the Superdome.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
That WrestleMania 3 was a wild show. A lot of people think it was Hulk Hogan. Fake news.
No, it was Brock Purdy. Everyone knows that.
I think it's very obvious.
You have to make it all a deal right now.
Okay.
Just say yes or no that you'll do it.
All right. Yes.
Y'all heard it. He said yes. He doesn't even know what it is.
All right,
but
jar of mayo
yes.
it is, Eric. Jar of mayonnaise it is. You asked for this, literally.
He didn't even say, what am I saying yes to? I'm shocked.
I'm sorry. I'm married. I'm used to just saying yes.
I'm like,
I wasn't even thinking.
Okay, then I'll think of something good.
So Brandon, you're gonna use your power for now. Go on.
Well, see, I was waiting for it depends on what I'm saying yes for. And then I was gonna segue into.
So what you're saying, you don't know what to do with your hands. All of a sudden you relate to the people of Detroit
or whatever, but you have to promise us all, okay? Okay. If Brock Purdy somehow happens to win the Super Bowl
again,
yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
you have to buy like a prism or an optic rookie of his, and proudly display it in your collection.
Isn't that going to cost like $2,000 or something?
No, if you go optic,
you don't have to go fancy.
You can get a raw optic.
Okay.
And a raw optic.
You don't have to go fancy.
I promise I will do my very best to get an affordable rookie card of Brock Purdy when he wins his 38th Super Bowl.
Amazing.
Okay. That
sensational.
See, I could have went Mayo route because I was not expecting that answer.
Oh, that's my
first thought I had. Man.
That's my broken married brain. I'm just used to saying yes, dear.
We're learning a lot tonight. We're learning a lot tonight, folks. All right, so gentlemen, I'll ask you this one. So for the first one, we had a lot to say on this one. I got to be honest, for the Detroit Tampa Bay game, I saw the game. I watched a good chunk of it, but I don't really have a lot to say about it. I would say congrats to Detroit. they're playing well. I want to talk a little bit more about it when we get to the San Francisco one. So I'm saving the Green Bay one for last. We'll talk about that at the very end. But congrats to Detroit. Good on them right now. This is a big ride for them. They're having the opportunity. The team is playing well. So it's one of those things. Tampa Bay, out of the teams remaining, there were a couple of underdogs, but realistically, Tampa Bay, I don't think anybody really other than just being a disaster for the sake of, you're looking at Detroit and saying, oh, disaster. Tampa Bay has had its own good fortune so far. They had their own nice story. Baker Mayfield has probably earned himself a starting job, going forward. And what he's been able to do with Tampa is pretty good. Like, they've had moments where they've played pretty well. So good for him. Because he became kind of a journeyman. So maybe he found his place in Tampa Bay. And if they can continue to build, like, he's got good receivers, like, there's pieces there to maybe be interesting going forward down the road here. So good for them. But I think Detroit was a more sound, roundly built football team. And this year they seem to be on the bandwagon. And right now they're riding the wave of emotion from all of Michigan, because right now they're on it. Right now, this is their big moment to potentially do a thing. And I don't know if you guys saw it, but like the social media and a lot of them made the rounds. There was this dude who apparently is a 66-year season ticket holder.
Yes.
For the Detroit Lions.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So for him, it's like this is like the magical moment. So Eric, I think you could let this guy cry if he wants to cry, right? Like, it's cool. 66 year.
90-something years old. He can do whatever he wants to do.
Yeah. I think we'll give him a pass. We'll let him do whatever he wants on this one.
He probably wishes that he could have went to the game like years ago, though, in the playoffs, because the tickets were probably a lot more expensive now.
Yeah, sure. But I think regardless, though, good. Like I said, good for him. Good for the longtime fans who have suffered through a lot of ineptitude for that franchise. It's a good story. It's a good narrative here going into the next round. So we root for the good story. So I think it's a good one. Even though they're a division rival to the Packers, like, the Lions are the Lions. They've been the Lions so long, they're not the ones we worry about in that division most of the time.
Take out the Lions story in general and think of the story that is going to be written if for some reason they pull it off, and make it to the Super Bowl. And let's say they pull that off. That'd be a hell of an interesting story for both sides, with Goff having made it to the Super Bowl with the Rams, but didn't get it done. They swap quarterbacks. Stafford goes to the Rams, gets them the title. And then if Goff could take the Lions and get them a title, like, it would be like almost a perfect trade of sorts.
Each team got what it needed.
Outside of the Lions story itself, that trade scenario, if that happened, that's a hell of a story. So
I agree. I think that's fair. So now moving on here, we've got again a game that was competitive for a little bit and then kind of pulled away. So Brandon's Baltimore Ravens did not allow the rest to dissuade them. They were able to eventually cast off the young upstart Houston Texans. Brandon, the floor is yours. What say you?
I silently and secretly watched the game because I told Carlos I wasn't sure how to approach it. I told y'all I wasn't going to go into it confident. First half was a weird story of the first half because it was tied at halftime, and the Texans defense were all over Lamar. I mean, it was 3rd and 32, I think, on that last possession that they had to end the first half. Like, he would snap the ball and the Texans were on him. You had the punt return. That was the only touchdown of the game for the Texans. But at halftime, I still wasn't like, I wasn't confident we would win. Like, it was close. And I didn't know how Baltimore would come out after having a 3rd and 32 to close out the half. But yeah, they came out. Baltimore had the ball to start the second half, marched down the field, scored, and it was game on from there. 24 unanswered. I don't want to say Texas never really were in the game, but you take away that punt return touchdown, and it was literally 34-3. And the defense, like, they did very well. So hopefully that continues. But, Kansas City's going to be a tough matchup. I will say, you mentioned Josh Allen and his ability to run. That was something I noticed with CJ Stroud, that he had opportunity to run. And when I seen that during that game on the defense, I was like, I don't know if, I mean, Mahomes can run, but Josh Allen's a pretty big dude when he's running. And I was like, I don't know if I want Allen running against this defense, leaving that much field open. But I don't know. We'll see how it goes. So it was a good
I
game.
think it's fair. I think it's fair. And we'll do our picks at the very end once we get a chance to go through those. So let's go into it. So Eric, before I move on here, do you have any thoughts? So I'll be real brief, and then if you want to share any thoughts on Houston, Baltimore, you're more than welcome to. All I'll say is, like I said, I think it was competitive for half, and then I think it kind of pulled away, and then Baltimore reasserted itself. Baltimore has been right now, out of what's left, I think they're probably the most complete team in terms of having the pieces. But at the very end, before we do our picks, I am going to make a point that also kind of plays into this a little bit, talking about the theme that I discussed weeks and weeks ago now about kind of the parody of this season, and kind of it was open-ended and it could go in a bunch of different directions. And I feel just as strongly about that now as I did then. And a lot of what's played out is kind of emphasized that. Go ahead, Brandon.
I just had one more thing that I wanted to add that I was actually glad to see. I had thrown up the 2019 playoff game where Baltimore got ran over literally by Derrick Henry, and that game was ugly as all could be. Lamar had over 500 yards, both passing, receiving, or rushing in that game. This game, he had like around 250 combined yards. And it was nice to see that they could put everything together and actually have a blowout kind of on their end, with Lamar having half the amount of total yardage that he had in 2019. So it felt like a more balanced game, and the defense helped out as well. So hopefully that's a good sign moving forward. So
Okay, no, that's fair. So Eric, you got any other thoughts here on that particular game before we move on?
I just think they're the most well-rounded team. I was talking about kickers earlier. I mean, their kicker is probably the greatest kicker the league has ever seen. So you don't have to worry about kicking. Lamar he's transformed himself. He's no longer this.
that's a running back, bro.
He's no longer this athlete that plays quarterback. He has become a quarterback that has other tangible assets. So, when he first came in, it was just like, all right, this kid, it's like he's in the Wildcat all the time. Is he going to run? Is he going to throw? Was he going to, but now he's a quarterback that if he's in a jam or if the play calls for it, can now run. Where before it was like, no, the play is to throw, but he'd panic and just take off because that's what he could do. You know what I'm saying? So I really think he's come a long way. I think he's going to be the MVP, and I think the team around him should be favored to win the whole thing. I think they look really good.
There you go. And we'll come back to the picks here in a second. Now, Eric did mention a team that has a kicker that they can have confidence in. You know who doesn't have that? The Green Bay Packers. So now, like I mentioned, I did do a watch along here. And the thing is, the watch along was a lot of fun, to be honest. That's why I said, like, I've enjoyed it to the point that I'm looking forward to doing another one for the NFC Championship. But I must say, the game leaves me of two minds. On the one hand, I am extremely pleased that the arc that this season has taken for Green Bay, in the sense of, all right, do we have a quarterback? Is it going to go to struggles early? Like, there were some games where, chronicled here, where we talked about it, where in the first half of games, the offense couldn't do anything, literally anything, to kind of basically figuring it out, getting the pieces together, young wide receivers, a young quarterback, all these things, they coalesce and they gel. And all of a sudden the offense looked good. And the defense was a liability. And they found, even though they still had some holes and some issues, and they made some really terrible quarterbacks look pretty good over the course of it. But then towards the very end, they basically played 3 playoff games because they needed to win in the last game in order to get in the playoffs. And then they won a playoff game against Dallas. And going into this game, 7.5-point underdogs, like strong, heavy underdogs. They had the ball with 1 minute and 7 seconds left and 3 timeouts to potentially win the game. That was after everything. The whole game played out. There was a situation there where they had 2 turnovers. Brock Purdy tried his best to throw multiple turnovers. And with 1 minute and 7 seconds left in the game, the offense had the football with the opportunity to get the go-ahead score or potentially at least tying field goal. Both options were on the table. So they had that opportunity. But that goes along with, now I'm going to bring the kicker thing into it, the one that I mentioned here. And in the spirit of hashtag scholarship, I have some numbers. I have some statistics that I would like to share. So one of the statistics that I have here, teamrankings.com, there's a variety of different sites. I've seen a couple of the variations of this stat, but I think this is fairly accurate, so I'll include this. So this is field goal percentage this season from 40 to 49 yards. Field goal percentage. The Green Bay Packers kicker, Anders Carlson, was ranked 36th in percentage from 40 to 49 yards. 36th. Point of order. This is not the to be fair. This is the to be accurate. There are 32 teams in the league, and he is 36th. 36th in field goal percentage from 40 to 49 yards. Coincidentally, the field goal that he missed in the game in question was 41 yards, which is on the low end of that 40 to 49 yard scale where he's under 50%. That ain't good, Eric. That ain't good. And another statistical point of order, that was the 13th missed kick he has had this season. Field goals and extra points, including the playoffs. 13th missed kick this season.
And he's probably still better than the Patriots kicker.
All I'm saying is I wasn't exactly looking forward to that situation where he was the one making the kick.
All right.
It sucks for him. I have no interest in making this guy into a scapegoat, but I kind of need those points, Eric. In a close game, I don't want to be throwing away 3 points on he missed a 41-yard kick. The Buffalo one, by the way, was more than a 50-yard kick, I believe. It was actually a longer kick. A 50+ yard kick, if you miss a couple, that sucks. It happens. It was a 41-yard kick he missed. It's not automatic, quote unquote, but there are plenty of kickers who can make it at a reasonable clip. He was comfortably under 50% from 40+. 50+, I can only imagine what that percentage would have looked like. But that was from between 40 and 49, not 50+.
Right.
So you're not even making the 40-yarders with any consistency. And where points were at a premium, that ain't great. That isn't what you're looking for because you're losing opportunities. You're missing out. There were other missed opportunities. There were drops. There was a questionable spot on 4th down that was a little questionable. I'm not going to spit here and blame the refs. You could, but I'm not going to do it. But realistically, there were some missed opportunities. There were a couple of mistakes made. Jordan Love did throw 2 interceptions. The second one was inexcusable, but it was at the end of the game. It should have been a smarter play. But the reality is that was the final nail at the end. But realistically, there were other opportunities prior to that where hopefully he learns from it. Is in that scenario, he was on a 1st down. He didn't have to make that throw. He could have thrown it away, lived to fight another day. You get another down. You get another opportunity. There's no reason to try to do it all in one shot there. You had enough time and enough opportunity. That's a learning experience. I can live with that. But I will say, Brock Purdy literally threw a couple of balls that were almost completely. One of them, I think the Packers defender was shocked he was coming to him. Like he didn't even know. It was the Detroit thing. He didn't know what to do with his hands. So all of a sudden, but that was a missed pick opportunity. Purdy tried to throw a couple. They managed to avoid a turnover by good fortune for them. But San Francisco won the game. But I'll say this, and I said it during the live. So 2 things can be true at the same time here, and I'll say both. Number 1, I expect that San Francisco will look at the same tape, and I expect they'll button things up, and I expect them to play a lot better. The weather was not ideal. It was raining, and which did affect grip. It did affect catches, and people slid. So I'll give a little bit of a pass because if you make some wonky throws and you're struggling with grip, that's a factor. Unless they run into the same weather, I expect that will improve. But if Purdy tries to put together a performance like that, the Lions will have their lunch. Like if they make even a couple of those opportunities that Green Bay missed, they will run them off the field if they make mistake, if they play a game like that again. Because Green Bay had every opportunity, like I said, 1 minute and 7 seconds, and they had an opportunity to drive down the field, and they could have scored the game-winning touch. And I do not have any confidence Brock Purdy could have come back even if they leave a little time left on the clock for them. I think if they had scored that go-ahead touchdown, I think Green Bay advances, and we get the Detroit, we get the Detroit Green Bay scripted NFC Championship that I was hoping for. As it was, I'm very pleased with the team and how they played. The future is bright, too, I believe. But I will say the other thing, though. While all that is true, I do think this season is going to be a missed opportunity for some of these teams. Sometimes things fall into place, and if it falls in your lap this year, I think you got to take it. You can't miss out on any opportunity here because this is wide open. There's a lot of any of these combination of teams could have advanced and gotten to the Super Bowl the way this year has played out. So there's going to be some teams kicking themselves that they missed out on this opportunity being out of the tournament right now. They'll wish like, oh, if we had been in it, if we had that chance, we would love to have played that team, right? There's a lot of teams that looked at that San Francisco team that game, and like, oh my God, if we had played this San Francisco team, we could have beaten them. We'd be the one advancing, Right. So we'll kind of see how that plays. But like I said, I can't have my kicker be up below 50% from 40 yards. No. I can't have missed 13 kicks in a season. In a playoff situation, I need a little more reliability than that. So special teams hurt. Sometimes defense hurt. And even then, it was a 3-point game. 3-point game with a chance to go to the NFC Championship. I can't complain about it too much, but missed opportunity. It's going to feel like a missed opportunity, even though it was a rebuild year, technically.
Yeah, I don't think anybody who's truly a fan of the Packers can be upset this season. You had 2 Hall of Fame, back-to-back Hall of Fame quarterbacks play for your franchise over the last, not so swell fella. I mean, when was his rookie year? Like 1992 or something?
Well, 91 was his rookie year. He got traded from Atlanta, and he started for the Packers in 92. So, yeah.
Yeah, so we're talking like 30 years of Hall of Fame quarterback level. This year, you throw this kid out there. Now, I know he's not a rookie, but this is his first year of this is your team. I don't think anyone can be disappointed.
Well, didn't you mention earlier, like a few weeks ago, that the Packers were average age youngest team in the NFL?
Yeah, they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean,
the receivers are all super young. The receivers are super young. The quarterback's super young. So that's why I say, like, over the course of these weeks, as things have developed, that's why I say, like, Eric is right. There's no reason. I cannot complain. In the moment, I'm frustrated because the outcome, like being that close, you want it. Like if you're that close and the opportunity is there, you can seize it. One more smart play, one more game break. Again, one of those Brock Purdy bad throws gets caught. All of a sudden, San Francisco is on their back heels a little bit. The way San Francisco was a little wobbly on those legs. San Francisco had been so good for a lot of the season, but they were wobbling a little bit. They had taken a couple of haymakers and they were like, they managed to steady themselves just enough to get out of there. But it wasn't a triumphant tour de force performance by them. It was like, you guys got out of there. You better not do that again, because of a game opponent, if you make those same mistakes and they capitalize on a few of them, you're out of here. And the 37th, the 38th Brock Purdy Super Bowl appearance may not happen. If they don't get it, if they don't avoid it, it may not happen.
That's silly, but I hear what you're saying.
But the bottom line, though, and look, playing into Eric's Patriots, the thing that made the Patriots as frustrating as they were for everybody else, and I've literally made this point before, and I'll just quickly reiterate it, is that the Patriots were good at one thing, and that is they would play 1,018,000 close games. Go back and look at all the Super Bowls. None of them were blowouts. It was always like little thing. One thing would go right, and then including the last one, the last Patriots Super Bowl, that was the most garbage performance by both teams that I've ever seen in a Super Bowl ever. Both teams sucked. None of them deserved it. Stricken from the record. No one deserved that Super Bowl. You both played like trash. Get out of here and never show your faces again. However, they still came out on the winning side of that. And that was the thing. They would find these little ways, little edge, and they would scrape by. It'd be a Vinatieri field goal, or it'd be this little thing, or it'd be Marchand didn't run the ball. It would always be something, little thing. And it was a one-score game. Yeah, tuck roll. But the point is, though, if
that wasn't in the Super Bowl, stupid.
Nobody got them to the Super Bowl.
That got them to their first Super Bowl. That got them to the first one. But here's the thing. Sometimes people underestimate it, though. There is an element of luck to this. There is the tip pass that it was actually a good pass, but the guy didn't quite grab it. Boom, it tipped off his hand, and then the defender got it. It wasn't that it was a bad throw. There was nothing wrong with the throw. It was a tip pass, but it was a tip pass that should have been caught.
I mean, just on the Patriots behalf, look at the losses, the David Tyree and the Plaxico Burress catch and like some of those plays.
For me though, the way I look at it is like, look, live by the sword, die by the sword. Mm-hmm. You get some fortunate breaks and you get some bad breaks. Hopefully over the course of time it evens out. But I think they got plenty of good breaks during that run. And it's little things that would happen in some of these high leverage games. And unfortunately, sometimes they don't go your way and the other team gets the lucky break. And then but if you're that close, it's also the little plays, the small execution. You missed the tackle, because there were a couple of those. Remember I mentioned the defense was a liability. They missed a couple of tackles that allowed San Francisco to get extra yards, get an extra first down, extend the play, but then there were other moments where they did what they're supposed to be doing. So it's one of those things where you watch an ebb and flow of a team that would make a great play, but then maybe the defense would miss a tackle, or maybe the offense would suddenly struggle a little bit. But it was kind of a back and forth. Again, it was a 3-point game by the end of it. It wasn't like it was this, dominating performance by either team. But when you're that close, then it's the one extra mistake. In this case, you're still driving, and you decide to go Farvian. Not so fella is one of my favorites, but sometimes throwing into the double or triple coverage, not the play. Sometimes you don't want to be throwing into the double triple coverage. Listen, we like a little not so fella, but you don't go full Favre. You do not go full Favre.
Never go.
You just don't do it.
Never
go full.
You talk about the little things that happen, and sometimes like things go both ways.
Yeah.
I was actually talking to some friends earlier today, and I mentioned how sometimes in the NFL playoffs, it's like not even the moments that happen within the game. It's what leads up during the regular season. And if you look back at some of the years in the playoffs, the way the matchups played out, if the matchups had been different, the entire scenarios in the playoffs would have been different. And this year is kind of no different, because I mentioned in the first round that Miami having to go to frigid Kansas City didn't bode well for them. Well, had they had won in the final week of the season, they would have been at home playing Pittsburgh. Yep. Sure. And that would have been a completely different scenario for Miami, and you would have had Buffalo then going out to Kansas City, where hell, the kick might have been made. They might have beat KC in their own house, so who knows? But sometimes it's just the way the matchups line up and strengths and weaknesses, or how teams play against one another, that can sometimes create the whole outcome of the playoffs.
Yep. No, absolutely. I agree. But that's what I say, though. This has been a very fun playoff year. Like I said, for the most part, I've enjoyed it. I think it's been very interesting seeing a lot of these play out. The Wacko for Flacco movement dying off a little early. That was disappointing.
That was.
But we've still got a couple of good narratives. I'm just going to say, we've still got a couple of good narratives still left here. And I'm looking forward to that. But so before we touch on predictions, real quick, actually, before I do that, anything else on Green Bay, San Francisco? Either you guys want to hit on?
I was going to go back and watch. You can refresh my memory, but last episode, you guys picked San Francisco because, obviously being a Green Bay fan, you said you pick who you would bet on. Didn't I go against y'all and say Green Bay?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was watching, I was like, holy hell, I might be right. And then, of course, the hell.
Well, hey, listen. I still think I'm hoping that one of the coaches goes and replays the interception there at the end for Jordan Love, replays it for him a couple of times. I wanted to replay it, not out of meanness, but just like a situation. The situation, here's the thing. We weren't desperate enough. You didn't need to do it. There were other options.
Ever throw across the field. Don't ever do it. Don't ever do it. And even if it works, don't ever do it. It is a number one no-no as a quarterback. You never throw across the field. It is going to be intercepted more times than not. And they teach you this in Pee Wee football as a quarterback. You throw it either straight or, to the side of the field that you're on, but you never throw across the field. And he did it, and they intercepted it.
Now you're going to see Eric's going to go out on his bike there, minding his own business in the evening, and all of a sudden, somewhere off in the distance, Brett, he's just going to make a crossbody throw, and all of a sudden Eric's like biking, ching ching. He's got his little basket, ching ching, and all of a sudden football, boom,
Have Napoleon Dynamite. That exact same thing happens.
Yeah, it's coming for you, man. I am warning you in advance.
With a stake.
It's like I am warning you in advance. It's happening. It's coming for you. It's
Right
going to happen.
Yeah.
You will wish you will rue the day that you didn't take up cyclocross full time. At least been training for it. Just saying, throwing it out there. But yes, so bottom line though, Brandon, is that I think the good news here is because they were so close. The lesson should be, hey, you can compete with these guys. You just got to cut down the mistakes.
Yeah.
And also, let's figure out the kicking situation. Because for God's sake, I need a kicker that can make like I would have liked there were opportunities, to be clear. This was a 3-point game. I have a missed field goal where there's 3 of my points. 3 points, 3-point game, 3 points. That was literally a missed kick. And then there was another one where they could have gone for a kick, and they ended up losing the ball on downs. So there's another potential 3 points on the board. So my point is that I want to take advantage. And here, I'll throw one final stat at you before we move on to picks here. Green Bay was, I believe, in the red zone 5 or 6 times. And they only converted on 2. So there were opportunities there. There were legitimate opportunities from some additional scoring plays, and that would have been the difference in the game. So you take advantage, you pick up you clean up some of that stuff, take advantage of those, take the positives. All the players got all this additional experience. They got all that, but you got to fix some stuff. And the defense has to be figured out. Probably I'd be surprised if the defensive coordinator's back. We'll see. We'll find out, I guess, down the road here if Joe Barry is back. But I need the defense cleaned up, because if you clean up the defense, that offense is looking pretty good. I could see those 2 units coming together in a little more unison. That'd be kind of fun if they manage to pull that off. So let's get into the matchups that we have left. So let's do the NFC first. And I've actually got the lines and things as well. I've got the betting lines, the early betting lines here. So we'll look at these. So first, we've got ourselves, let's do Kansas City and Baltimore. So Brandon, Kansas City, Baltimore, AFC Championship. This is Mahomes' 6th AFC Championship, trying to build himself a nice little Hall of Fame resume. But your boy, the MVP, I believe, possibly 2-time MVP now, Lamar Jackson, leading his team. The line's 3.5. So pretty close. They've got Baltimore at a 3.5-point favorite. That's what we got here. Now, who's going to win? What are you feeling?
I'm going Baltimore. I told y'all I wasn't confident last week, but I'm going to ride my team. I don't want to. Confidence or no confidence, I got to at least be a true fan. And after seeing what they did against the Texans, I said that I would like to play Kansas City. I feel Kansas City is a good team, but I don't think they're firing on all cylinders. I think they have some chinks to their armor. If we can play like we played in the second half of that Texans game, then Baltimore looked like just a tough team right there. So I'm going with my guys. They'll cover the point spread, and it'll be cool to see Lamar in the Super Bowl.
All right. Sounds fair. One more quick kind of bonus thing. I'm curious. I got the over-under total here, 44.5. You think higher or lower?
44.5.
44.5 is what I've got here for over-under.
I would go over.
Yeah, I feel like unless it becomes this weird bogged down defensive battle, I feel like the over is interesting to me. I think 44.5 feels a little low. All it would take is a couple of
Well, I
touchdowns from each
mean,
quarterback.
well, this
You're
past
getting
game
there
was
real quick.
34-10, so even with 34 points on Baltimore, I guess
Yeah,
they're
but I don't
figuring
think you're
the
going to
Chiefs
keep
score
Kansas
more.
City. I don't think you're going to keep the Kansas City down.
Yeah.
I think that I could see Kansas City getting in the 20s, and then all it would take is get, if you got Baltimore winning and covering the spread, then that'll get you there.
Yeah, I could see over 44.5.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. Eric, feelings. Kansas City, Baltimore.
I'm going for Baltimore. I've been polling for them. I think that they're the best team in the league. I hate Kansas City for lots and lots of different reasons over the last few years. I never root for Kansas City, although my mother does at times. We get into fistfights, and she whoops my ass.
Fair.
Yeah, she's very tough. So I'm going to stick with Baltimore, and hopefully our national Taylor Swift nightmare will be over.
Ooh. Ooh. See, Eric, I was going to join you too, but now the national Taylor Swift nightmare. That intrigues me. The pain,
See,
the wailing,
that's been in the back.
wailing, the
It's been in
wailing.
the back of my mind. Would this benefit the NFL with her being at the Super Bowl? Like, I've had that in the back of my mind, and I'm like, man,
Surprised she's not a performer this year. She's been on the TV.
yeah.
You know what, Eric? I got Kansas City by 150. What's gonna, first play is unnecessary roughness. That's the coin toss. Unnecessary roughness, Baltimore. 50-yard penalty. What? Doesn't even make any sense. The fix is in.
It's in Vegas too.
Yeah. Eric, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I definitely
T-Swizzle.
I did make a comment during the game the other day that I thought the refs made a really egregious call. Not just like, hey, it could have gone either way, but not just like, I thought it was egregious. And I went, man, the NFL really wants Taylor Swift at that Super Bowl this year. So I'm
just so that we don't all pick the same thing, I'm going to go Kansas City based on hashtag rigged rules. Hashtag rigged rules. Kansas City. Right. I also picked the over because I like that over. I'm intrigued by that over. The 4.5 is the one that interests me. That's the one that I'm kind of like, okay, that could be interesting. That could be pretty good.
Cannot wait to say our long national nightmare is over.
We'll see, man. I think Super Bowl isn't it Usher performing in the Super Bowl?
Yes. Though, and if she's there,
Eric, Usher Taylor Swift duet at the Super Bowl. Let's go.
I don't see if she's there. Why not?
It may as well, right?
Number one artist on the planet. Why wouldn't you want her parading down there so all the Swifties can tune in and make you more money?
There you go. All right. NFC Championship. So I'll be doing a little watch along on this one. So this will be interesting. All right. So NFC Championship. You got Detroit Lions taking on the Purdy Party, San Francisco 49ers, the Eric fan club, the Eric, bougie Eric, pumping going on for the Purdy Party. So we got that. Okay, so we got two elements to this. We talked about the narratives. We talked about the whole thing. The city of Detroit may actually burn down if they get to the Super Bowl. The madness will ensue. Like, it'll just be not a parade. It'll just be like a 12-day riot, 12 days of lights because the flames continue to rise above Michigan. But 7-point spread. Now here's the thing that I'll add to this. What I mentioned earlier, I said two things can be true. I believe that San Francisco played a really bad game against Green Bay. I believe that was a very vulnerable game for them. I do think the weather played a factor, but I think Purdy was a little bit shaky at times. I also believe they won't necessarily be that bad again. However, even if they play better, which I expect they will, my expectation is they'll play better. I will say that I feel a 7-point line. I believe San Francisco being a 7-point favorite is disrespecting Detroit a little bit. I think it's a little disrespectful to Detroit to just concede 7 points to the 49ers. 7-point spread is pretty strong, in my opinion. I would be inclined, even if you think that San Francisco pulls it out, I'd be almost inclined to take the points. They can give me 7. I feel like that's a little bit much for the game. I feel like it could be closer than that. I don't know, but I feel like it could be because you've seen at least a part of the blueprint. And if Detroit is able to put up a decent offensive performance, I feel like they could keep it close at the bare minimum. So that's just something I would throw out, as a thought. Brandon, you can take the spread. You can take the straight up. Who you think's going to win? Whatever. And the over under that one is 50.5. So they got a higher score on this one, is what they're thinking with it. So that's what I'm saying. So they got San Francisco 7-point favorites, and they're going with a 50.5 over under on this one. So thoughts on either the spread, who wins straight up, or the over under?
How the hell do you go 44.5 with Mahomes and Lamar offense and 50 with?
They were listening
Jared
to Eric
Goff and
about the
Brock
Purdy
Purdy.
party. They expect him to throw 12 touchdowns and take care of it by himself, I guess. I don't know.
No disrespect to the Lions. They've had a hell of a run. I think I'm going to say they have a chance in the game. I don't want to think that, 50 points and 7-point spread. I don't think that's realistic. I mean, I don't know, but I think San Francisco will pull it out. We'll have a rematch of the 2012 Super Bowl, Ravens and 49ers.
Okay.
The elements is like you have McCaffrey, Debo, Ayuk. Like the Niners have a really, really good offense. Detroit has a good team. I just think 49ers are built a little bit better. Little bit, not 7-point favorite, not 50-point game total better, but
That's why I'm inclined to take the points. I got to be honest, Eric. For my money, I'm inclined to take the points. I kind of feel good about 7 points.
So you think the 49ers are going to win?
I think it'll be closer than 7 points. I'll give so my pick will be I'll give the edge to 49ers, but it wouldn't shock me if it was like a 3-point game at the end. That's kind of where I'm at on that one. I feel like it'll be closer because I feel like Detroit will ride off the momentum that they've built up. But that's why I say, like, for me, if I just take the points, then I feel good either way. If San Francisco wins by a squeaker, I win. If Detroit wins straight up, I win. So either way, I give myself multiple options.
Yeah, I won't be sad either way. I'm rooting for both teams. So I'm really hoping for a good game. Whoever comes out, I'm going to be happy with for the storylines anyway. But I am picking 49ers. There's no way I can pick against a 47-time Pro Bowler. Someone who that's won 62 Super Bowls and is the only active Hall of Famer in the league, being Brock Purdy. So I will be obviously rooting for him, the GOAT of all GOATs, greatest player in NFL history. So I don't see how you can root against him.
What about the over-under 50.5? High scoring, low scoring? What say you?
No, I think this is going to be a high scoring game.
Over 50.5?
Over
pretty
50?
strong.
Over 50?
It's over 50.5. That's the over-under. You'd have to go 51 points to get over.
No, under. There's no.
Right.
They're basically saying that it's going to be like 34-20 or something, by the way, or 34-24, because they got a 7-point spread and they're saying that it's going to be a 50-point total. So they're saying San Francisco, they're going to put up a lot of points on Detroit.
Yeah, that's basically how they've lined it up here on this end. And if in case anybody's curious, I'm looking at FanDuel. That's the one I'm looking at right now. That's one of the ones I know that stateside they've got the FanDuel as well.
I changed my mind. I'm sitting here doing some thinking. I think it could be over 50. Yeah, I think I could see them doing that. Yeah, I could see some team having 35 and the other one right behind them. So yeah, I could see that. I take it back. Yeah, I do think they can break 50.
All right, he's going with the over. Bold. So should be interesting, should be entertaining. I'm looking forward to it. As the gentleman mentioned, there's a lot of intriguing storylines here. I think I'm looking forward to seeing what we have, and then obviously we'll have a week off after that. Well, I think they still do the week off now. It's not Pro Bowl anymore; they got rid of that. Now it's just a week off,
Well,
just in general.
They have a Pro Bowl, but now
Oh yeah, they
have
changed it.
skills competition and a flag football game.
I got to be honest, the skills competition is more interesting than the Pro Bowl anyway. I have no problem with skill competition. That's fine.
Yeah. I'd rather see them, the quarterbacks try to hit moving targets and, seeing how fast guys are and have them race. So you know who the fastest guy in the league is, stuff like that. That, maybe a powerlifting competition with the linemen, who's the strongest lineman, something. I'd much rather watch that than a half-ass football game that's no one's trying.
Yeah. Well, the Pro Bowl's been kind of like that for years anyway. So I'm more inclined. They used to do the NFL Quarterbacks Club. They used to have like these challenges.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's basically where I basically do that. That'd be my take. Go ahead, Brandon. You were gonna say?
I was looking at the last 2 weeks here, but
Sure.
because that 50-point thing has got it's crazy. But you have Detroit in the division or in the wild card round. They only scored 24 points.
Mm-hmm.
They won that game by 1. Total points scored was 47. And then this week, Detroit scored 31 and 49ers scored 24. So even at that point, that's your 7-point spread, but it would have been reversed. You're still only at 55 points. I just don't see 50 plus points, and I don't know that I see a 7-point spread.
You sound to me like a man.
I would go with the Ravens ones more because Baltimore scored 34, Kansas City scored 27, and in the wild card round, Kansas City scored 26. So, they're putting up 25 plus points in both of their playoff weeks, and then you have the Ravens offense, so they would be more likely to put 50.
Spoken like a man who is looking down the barrel of a parlay. Who knows? Who knows? I like some of those combinations, Eric. I'm not gonna lie. I think it's interesting. I think the 7 points is a little disrespectful to Detroit. Like I said, that's my opinion.
Yeah.
But if anybody agrees with that, well, you got options on the table available too, if that interests you. So I merely posed that. Good stuff. That was fun. It's been enjoyable. I've actually, like I mentioned to the guys before we started recording, is that the sports card world, we're gonna get back to it, but it's been one of those things where we've got our evergreen topics, which we can always come back to anytime. But realistically, the news cycle on sports card has been a little light. I haven't got a chance to get around to reading my Mike Kramer memoir yet. So maybe after I read the Mike Kramer memoir, I can share some findings. But I've got to get around to reading through that. Now that I've got a little commute, a couple of days, maybe I'll fire it up and give me an excuse to do a little bit of a light reading and get through that. So we'll have to see. Maybe to come. We'll see from that. All right. So with that, future episodes coming up, more videos coming up on the channel, live streams on Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we are at least 5% less mature than we are on this venue. And also, probably a watch along for the NFC Championship this time around. I've enjoyed doing these watch alongs, and it's been fun getting Scott and other folks involved. It's been enjoyable. And we'll hopefully, cross our fingers, hopefully see a good game. That's basically what I'm rooting for. That's the number one thing. Yeah. And if anybody needs somebody, Brandon will be in a fallout shelter during the Baltimore going, don't do this to me. Do it. Finish the job. Finish it.
Man, to be quite honest, my biggest reason outside of being a fan of the Ravens, my biggest reason is because all of that talk that last year of Lamar didn't want to play in Baltimore. The Ravens were doing him dirty. He wasn't going to sign with them. He wanted to go elsewhere. It was all that talk. And then they got the contract done. They didn't sign big name receivers. Yeah, Odell is known, but let's face it, he's not Odell of, early years. And they don't have Mark Andrews right now. They're still playing really well. And I would really, many quarterbacks get paid after they win the Super Bowl, a la Joe Flacco. I think it would be really nice to see Lamar signed the contract, stayed with the team, committed to the team, and then go right after all of that ordeal and take him and earn his money. I think that would be very, very well written for him as a player, and just, overall, I think that would be an awesome story. So
Nice. And we do root for the narratives. We are in favor of the narratives, so
Yeah, why not?
that works. All right. So that's it for us. You can check out Eric at Sanderson Deor on the Instagrams. If you wish to throw questions, get your Brock Purdy facts. You can probably find those there. That's the place I would look.
Oh
You
yeah.
got Brandon here, Bobbles and Ball Cards. He did the most recent SGC submission. If you want to check out some of those and check out some cards, they even got some Bobby Orrs.
Yes,
I don't know who that guy is. I know somebody else on Fridays, but Bobby Orrs, whoever that is. So there's at least a card of that.
I'll be doing a video sometime coming up on the Bobbles channel too. I don't want to promise when it'll be because I don't know when the item I need for the video will arrive, but at some point, stay tuned.
Yeah, Grail, Grail piece. So that'll be forthcoming.
Yeah.
And then you can also check out 540 Flips if you want to check out the other side of the flipping, reselling games. So perfect. So again, thank you to AMG Collectibles, as always, for their support of the channel and the podcast. We appreciate you. And like I said, you can check out the YouTube channel. Links to all those things are in the description. You can check those out. And we'll be back in a future episode. We'll catch you in the next one.